don't know how they get it all done. So you just make it happen, right?
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
Well,
Just,
I'm impressed.
Just make it happen.
Putting such great content out
Thank
there,
you.
everybody.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and transition over into our live broadcast. So hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. My name, Megan Boitano, and excited. Special guest today is Libby Rothschild, and we're going to dive deep into the topic of hiring a business coach. This is, I really wanted to bring this topic to the show because it's one of these questions that gets thrown around in a lot of the different groups that I'm in. Hey, do you anyone recommend a business coach, or how do I find one, or what's your experience been? And you get this interesting spattering of answers, and I wanted to talk to Libby because one, she has a lot of experience as a coach, and two, is really knowledgeable from a business perspective to not just talk about, to really get that bigger picture of it's about your business, it's about success, but sometimes you get the results that you as the person going in are ready to get as well. So how do I make sure that my business is where it needs to be to make this step? What do I need to work on myself personally to be in the right place to hire a business coach? Because it isn't what's right for one person maybe isn't right for another. So I'm excited for Libby to talk about kind of what is coaching, what are some of the key components of finding a coach, what exactly does a coach do? I think it's like this mysterious relationship and a little bit nerve-wracking for maybe if you haven't, what are they going to expect of me? What is this going to look and feel like? So, Libby, thank you for coming on the live show. And you've been on before, but I want you to tell a little bit about your story and kind of how you ended up as dietitian boss, leader of dietitian bosses, and coach.
Yeah, well, thank you for the introduction. I do want to mention that I was on your show, was it a year and a half ago?
Yeah.
So the last time I was on Megan's show, I was in my clinical office during lunch break. So I just want to put that out there and let all of you know that who are listening that I believe I got to where I am today because I have had coaches. And I believe very strongly in coaching and hiring coaches. And I just want you to know that I come from a place where I have multiple coaches. I've had a coach pretty much since day one. I'm a firm believer in investing in yourself. And today we'll talk all about alignment, what that means, all of the details to answer all your questions that have to do with the coaching realm.
Nice. So you mentioned a year ago we were in your clinical office, and the topic was really around Instagram and growing your Instagram following, and that's really how I first became aware of you. I think it was the Nutrition Entrepreneur DPG webinar that you did. I think that's where you first hit my radar, because I don't even think I was on Instagram. I'm fairly new to the Instagram and social media world, so. Thank you. Congratulations, really, on becoming a full-time entrepreneur. And it's just kudos to you. So well done.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. A little bit about my journey. I'm an accidental entrepreneur. I started my journey from my clinical office. So my background is clinical dietetics. I have a master's degree in clinical nutrition. In New York City, I was working as a clinical dietitian and outpatient, feeling pretty lonely. And my first career is in personal training. I did that for over a decade. And so I learned a lot of skills in marketing and sales because I worked for myself, meaning I would pay gyms a copay, go in there, I would get my own clients. I did work for a couple of gyms throughout the time of being a personal trainer. And a lot of the skills that I learned from doing that, I've been able to translate into my current business. And so when I was a clinical dietitian feeling lonely, like I wanted to do more and I felt so status quo, I ended up getting opportunities and putting myself in a position to do teaching and consulting and speaking. And the reason I started what I do today is because one of my colleagues had said to me, you're doing all this teaching and speaking and you haven't told anybody about your journey. Why don't you share it on social media? So I started my Instagram feed as a unintentional. I didn't know it would become, it would help me become full-time entrepreneur. I started what I'm doing to tell a story and to connect with other dietitians about nutrition education. So when I first came out, I did videos on nutrition education, and that's, I just showed up every day. And through time, I had dietitians asking me, can you help me find opportunities to, get paid? And can you help me find a way to basically grow my social media feed? So I pitched a nutrition entrepreneur webinar. I also pitched Dietitian Connection, who I then later consulted for last year with their Instagram and helped grow their feed and American viewership, and did coaching, and then now became full-time just 5 months ago, which has been great. So that's my journey for those of you who don't know how I got to where I am today. And I know I'm leaving out a few details about balancing the full-time clinical gig and then leaving that to become full-time here. But that's my story in a nutshell.
I love that you called it kind of being an accidental entrepreneur, that, sometimes the questions, well, the answers that you need and the doors open as you continue to walk down the hallway, being not afraid to take some of those first steps, and that your Instagram feed was focused on nutrition education. And look where you are now with we were just talking on the show before we went live about nearing 100 episodes of your podcast, which is all about running a successful business, running your own business. So I always feel like that little bit of encouragement for people who feel like they just don't have it all. They don't have it all figured out quite yet and are kind of waiting on the sidelines. That's okay. That's the best time to jump in.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So let's start off with we're going to start off kind of at the, at the bottom and get a little bit more specific. But what exactly is a business coach, and what does a coach do for you?
Absolutely. So there are different types of coaching, and there's different types of coaching philosophies. So there is a coaching purist, a coach who you can hire, and their philosophy is that they never tell you what to do, and you show up and they really walk you through making your own decisions. It can be a longer journey, but it's a beautiful experience of self-reflection. Mm-hmm. There's other coaches who are more like a consultant, and they're just really telling you what to do. Right. And then there's also the middle. I would consider myself in between. So I'm going to give you steps and framework. I have a methodology, but at the same time, I'm going to check in with where are you today? How are you feeling? And what's most important for you? So again, the coaching purist is all about what's going on with you. They might not have a method, but they're directing and guiding you. A more of a consultant type is going to give you a methodology and not really always understand or be in tune with how you're feeling because they want to achieve a certain result. A consultant is paid for a certain outcome, right? And then there's that in between, which is a fusion between a purist and a consultant. And so an example of that could be with my style. When I do one-on-one, I ask my clients to create an agenda of a couple topics that they want to be discussed. So then that's a way of bridging the gap. I've got my methodology, I'm clear about my framework, and then they come with what they feel is most important and pressing at the time of the of our session, and then we make sure that we get their agenda covered.
Okay, that makes sense. So any other thoughts there on, is a certain style a better fit for certain people or certain types of businesses, or if it's maybe you just don't, does some people just need to be told, need more of a consultant style? Or otherwise? Yeah.
So I think, and let's take this back a step and talk more about what a coach does, because that was part of your question too. So I went right into the style. I want to talk a little bit more about what a coach does. I think that's more important than a style. I think style is something that you learn through time. And I think what matters more is just getting started and not worrying so much about, style does matter, but I think you just need to really prioritize your business and invest in yourself as your first step. So what a coach can do is help you break through your limiting beliefs, work through barriers and issues, help you self-reflect and identify, and depending on their style, right? So now we're going to bring in that example. If they're walking you through and they're serving as, somewhat of a mentor, and they're listening to you and watching you walk through and just providing a sounding board, that's really helpful when you're exploring your journey. And if there's a certain style where they're giving you a proven framework and a methodology, that can also, they can be a sounding board and walk you through what you're going through in your journey while they're supporting that you should be following certain steps along the way. So both styles can be really beneficial, and a coach is going to help you at various levels, from beginner, intermediate, advanced. The most successful people in the world have coaches at different levels, whether they're executive coaching, high performance coaching, coaches for beginners. And those coaches are going to help take you where you are today, understand your situation. Some of them will get their hands into your business and understand and really give you the tools to take you where you are now and guide you towards where you can be, whether it be big picture strategy or small details.
I think you made a good point about limiting beliefs. When you talked about what a coach does, what do you feel is kind of the most, if someone says, I can just, do this on my own. Is it what's wrong about that kind of a thought process?
Yeah, it's wonderful when people can do a certain level on your own, but there's only so much that you can DIY. And so having somebody who's able to have different complementary experience and where you're lacking is going to help you level up what you're doing at all phases. So quite often clients tell me that one of my specialties is helping them get clear with their messaging. And so what that does is bringing clarity to what they're doing, clarity with who they're marketing to. We all know if you market to everyone, you're marketing to no one. So when you have that intention and focus with what you're doing, it's going to help you attract the type of person you want to work with, whether it be for your product or service. And when you can get clarity with that and then create systems on the back end, that's going to help you create a profitable, purposeful business. And so everything that has to do with creating a business and having that business align, and also having that business really make you feel good and make the impact in the world that you want to create, there's a lot to it, that there's steps and gaps in what you're able to do as a human. So if you can complement some of your, whatever you're lacking in, or if you can strengthen what you're best at, it's really going to help you excel. So it's not possible to DIY, and it goes against my philosophy, because I believe in recognizing and acknowledging your genius zone. What are you best at doing? And if you can focus on what you're best at doing, maybe it's speaking, maybe it's teaching, and maybe it's, some aspect, maybe you're a really good practitioner with a certain type of person in a certain framework, and that brings you a lot of joy. And if you're able to really focus on what you're best at, and really have somebody help bring out those skills so that you can create the impact you didn't believe you can create, you will be more successful, make more money, and exceed all of whatever kind of goals you had. And that's something that I've experienced personally, and that's something a lot of my clients have experienced as well.
Yeah. So misconceptions about business coaching in general. You started talking about some of the styles, and you've worked with many different clients. So I imagine that sometimes you're breaking down some ideas about, what business coaching is and what it isn't. And I think it was really interesting where you were talking about styles in the beginning. You're not, maybe you are a therapist some days, but that's not is this, this isn't therapy perhaps, but maybe you do operate in some of that. What are some of the misconceptions that you hear, or myths about, coaching in general?
Yeah, I think the biggest misconception with coaching is that people feel that hiring a coach means that they will automatically get a certain result. Mm-hmm. And hiring a coach is going to help put you in a direction and get you, more clarity and help challenge you. But by no means does it guarantee anything. So remember, at the top of this interview, there's the purist, the blend, the hybrid, and the consultant. If you want to get a job done, right? If you want someone to create a freebie for you, you hire a designer. If you want to learn and grow and apply yourself, you hire a coach. If you want someone to do something and implement in your business, right? If you're at an intermediate level and you have a virtual assistant, an online business manager, you hire a marketing specialist. Those folks can implement for you. You have a specific tangible outcome that you want from that specific person. So when you hire a coach, you need to be clear with what are their skill sets, what are you expecting to get out of this. And a coach, typically, depending on the type of coach they are, they're going to help guide you through the processes so get you in the right direction so that you can, depending on what the coach sells, right? For me, I help you market and sell. And the goal is to give you clarity in your business so that you can attract clients and sell to them with your either product and or services. And so I'll guide you and set you up and give you my proven methodology, but I don't implement for you. I'm not posting for you. I'm not a done for you service. So that doesn't mean I'm guaranteeing sales. I guarantee nobody sales. What I'll show you is a proven methodology and I'll support you along the way, but you have to take ownership. And so I want to attract the type of person that wants to take ownership because those are the types of clients that do the best. Is a dietitian who really says, I own this journey. I'm invested in this journey. I need guidance in this journey. I want to create impact and income, and I take responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Got it. I really, for me, when you mentioned the difference about hiring a consultant versus a coach, I was thinking back to the corporate world where, I went through a few different electronic health record implementations. That was a consultant, right? They came in at a very high price to make sure a desired outcome. That, was a time and a place perhaps for a consultant. That wasn't a coaching, that wasn't the need for a coaching relationship. So I think that is a really nice way to say you're not guaranteeing results. And I think that's important to say that, you're looking for someone who's taking accountability. Hiring a coach, if you're thinking about even like pro basketball players, the coach doesn't go out on the court and play basketball, right? But they can certainly do a lot to help the team be in a position to win. So if we're talking about that, being in a position to win, and let's talk about the thing. It costs money to have a coach, Libby. When you're starting a business, it's expensive, right? There's always this talking about investing in yourself. You're also, trying to invest in lots of other things and keep your startup, costs low. Why not use other lower cost options? Like we hear about free mentorship. Like some people say, I have a score mentor. Why shouldn't someone start with something like that?
Sure. Yeah. Great question. When your time is precious, right, and finite, and I know I got started as an accidental entrepreneur a little bit later. I'd already been, my first career is personal training. I lost the opportunity to get a coach then. And so I'm 3 years into my clinical career in my office, barely getting started. And I, wish I would have hired a coach earlier. I would have been a lot more successful. I would have created my impact earlier on. I'm 32 now. Had I had gotten started earlier, I could have hit all my goals in my 20s. I didn't even know that was an option. Free stuff is exactly how you call it. It's free. Free content isn't going to give you the answers. It's not going to give you the support as you implement. It's not going to give you customized, personalized feedback, and accountability.
Ding, 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 accountability. Right?
Yeah, people pay for accountability, right? And so for me, when you're getting support and that's free, for example, like a podcast, or, you follow either me or Megan on Instagram, right? So that can be great and motivating. And it's wonderful when clients, or not clients, but when dietitians who don't, purchase my products and services, when they tell me, I have decided to do AB. I've niched down because of you inspired me to increase my rates. And people have listened to I have an episode about how to do a sales call, and people will tell me that they tried it and got leads to become clients. And I'm so happy that they found success from my free work. But imagine if you invested, imagine how much more success if you had that mindset where you allowed yourself to get the personalized approach and really implement the framework and get the results that you're capable of doing, and set really clear goals, set key performance indicators. And I think we don't, especially as women, because I am here, I really like to focus on helping women. We have, just like I did when I first started, like a lot of limiting beliefs. We lack confidence. And it's really important that we know that we're capable of not only charging our worth, but creating a business. We can do it. And a lot of the women that I work with, especially if they're in the earlier stages, they don't think they can. And I think that there's a lot to be said about that. If you invest in an option and you feel comfortable and confident about the approach and the framework and the person, and you apply what they say and do, and you give yourself the opportunity to grow a business that aligns with purpose and profit, you will feel very fulfilled. And so I believe that, just like all things in life, you need to invest your time and energy and money into something. Free only goes a certain way.
Yeah. So that being said, so when is the right time? I think when I put out on Instagram, was kind of giving a preview of kind of what I was asking you, that was one of the questions that got the strongest response. People just feel like you need to flail around for a while. Is there a right time? Like, does my business needs to do, there's these check boxes. I got to hit all these. Once I do that, then is the right time to work on a coach. When is the right time, Libby?
Yeah, the right time was yesterday, and the second best time is now. So at every stage of business, and as I had said a moment ago, in my first career, I didn't even realize I could have hired a coach. I worked in a male dominant career, and all the personal trainers I worked with were men. And I, saw how they got clients and some of their sales tactics, and it didn't quite resonate with me. And I felt a little isolated. And as as a clinical dietitian, I ended up being the only peds dietitian in my clinic, and I also felt alone. And I had to reach out and look for community. And if I would have invested in myself earlier, I didn't even know it was an option. If I would have found somebody in alignment with what I do, with a proven framework, I would have been thrilled to start what I'm doing now earlier. And so it's never too early. I have interns in my group program. I coach one-on-one students I have in my coaching program. I think that the best time to start as a dietitian for coaching is as soon as possible, to really, take what you do and take your education and do something about it, because being an RD means something when you're able to create impact with your credentials. And that goes for every level. So if at the beginning, it's great. At the beginning, investing in yourself is going to help set the path. And that's excellent. That's the best time, is to invest in yourself early on and, break through those limiting beliefs, understand the framework, because there's a lot of steps when you're creating the back end system, right? To walk a prospect through when they might want to go from a prospect to a client, nurturing them from onboarding to offboarding, the entire process, whether it's a product or a service, having that back end, implementing technology, every single aspect on the back end is one issue. And then on the front end, meaning the promotion and sales side, is another aspect. And being able to understand what steps to take and how to go from your idea to action. And imagine how much that would cost you if you didn't invest, right? How much money you're leaving on the table if you don't have a niche, if you're not clear. You have all this education and experience, whether you're listening and you're still a student, you're an intern, or whether you're a new dietitian, you've been a dietitian for 5, 10. I've helped dietitians in the field for 20 plus years. And they, really have an idea that they want to get out on online marketing, and they want to put themselves out there, and they just don't know the steps. They don't have the accountability. They don't understand how to develop a stronger mindset. And when you work with a coach, like what I offer, I'm going to give you the step-by-step answers in the beginning. And then when I do my coaching, it's for, intermediate, more advanced dietitians. And I walk you through how to scale, because those are things that I've been able to do. And I, give you the tools and save you time that I've had to build my own team. I save you time by showing you how to do that. And imagine how much time and energy you can save by having the answers there for you with somebody who you respect, and you want to hire a coach who you respect.
Well, I can't argue with anything that you've said, but I think we should go back to early on in the interview. You talked about being at a place where you're going to be kind of ready to take the action. And I think when you said, when is the right time, there isn't any specific things you need to have accomplished in your business, but you personally being in the place where you're willing to do the work, right? You're not expecting the coach to do it for you. Is that the right? I mean, obviously that's important in the timing as well, right?
Unless if you hire a done for you service, which is also fine too. There are you can hire, for example, you can hire someone, a virtual assistant, to set up your email marketing if you don't want to do that, which is great. So you can have aspects of your business outsourced, which can be very affordable. I've never created a freebie. And as I grow in my business, I have more and more things outsourced. Even my, Instagram posts now, I have a designer create them for me. And so, but I didn't start like that. So I think that the best time, a lot of us, this is when is the best time to have a child and do all the difficult things in life? And you can argue and say, oh, there's never a best time. But the reality is that as a dietitian, or a dietitian to be, if you're listening, because I do attract a lot of students, wherever you are in your journey as a dietitian or a nutrition student professional, and for you to take all of your knowledge and find a way to learn how to consistently promote, market, and sell in a way that feels authentic to you and connected to your higher purpose and aligned with why you do what you do, the sooner you can do that, the better. And you're leaving so much opportunity and money on the table if you don't take what you do seriously. So the best time to get started is definitely sooner than you think.
I really appreciate that you just laid it out there, because for me personally, we were talking before, having come from the corporate world, having had mentors and coaching, and the corporation put a lot of time and resources into making sure that I would be successful, right? That moving into the world of entrepreneurship, not having personally, for those of you listening in, I have not hired a coach for myself personally. And I think a lot of what you're saying, resonating as far as I do outsource a lot of different elements, but that those things are like the duties. Like, Megan, do you need a coach? Like, you need someone to be with the accountability, the roadmap, the thing. So those are things, which I think other people are probably having those same thoughts as they're listening in as well. So does it make sense?
And I just want to say to Megan that I believe, and I have 4 coaches, but I started with 1. So as I grow my business, I hire more, and I hire coaches who specialize in certain things. I have a coach for thought leadership. I now have an integrator in my business. I have 2 SME, subject matter experts, in my business. I take what I do really seriously. I have really big goals. I want to impact, female dietitians and help them break through their limiting beliefs all around the world. That's the vision of my business. I want to help women, charge what they're worth and break through their limiting beliefs so that they can, you really feel aligned with their business and use Instagram marketing effectively in a way that focuses on selling, social selling, right? And so it's important to me to advocate for that. And because I take that seriously, and because I tell my clients to invest in my services, it brings me complete joy to work with all my coaches. And I love building a team, and I can't wait to grow it more as I grow. But I started with 1 coach. I started with 1 subject matter expert, a fellow dietitian, and I grew from there. So as I get more successful and increase my revenue, I increase my amount of my coaches and my team, right? And so that's what I teach that same concept to my clients as well. Once they hit certain benchmarks in their business, 10K, et cetera, recurring revenue. And I also firmly believe that every stage of business that you're in, and this is, of course, I'm talking to those of you who want to make impact. So those of you who really want to send your message out to the universe, and you want to be seen in your space as an expert, you want to create an impact, and you want to make money on your own terms, right? So that's the type of dietitian I'm talking to. Whether you're in the beginning stage, a coach is going to help walk you through what we talked about, that back-end systems that can be challenging, the front-end systems, the sales and marketing, which can also be wrought with those limiting beliefs and imposter syndrome. So that's the benefit of the beginning stages. And when you're more intermediate, you're not sure exactly how to run your programs, how to set boundaries, how to enforce those boundaries, right? And that can cost you, you're leaving, again, so much money on the table if you were to create a program package, strengthen your program package, understand, get clarity with your offer, develop a funnel, develop a more clear funnel. And then at the more advanced level of your business, you're building a team, and you want to know who's managing the team. How are you managing the team? What's your overall goal? How do you want to spread your messages? And how can you save time and balance your work life better? So at all of those stages, whether you identify as beginner, intermediate, or advanced, a coach and a team, I believe, is the way to go.
So What about options for things like group coaching that people offer, or different courses with support calls? What are your thoughts on that versus more of one-to-one coaching?
Yeah, a really good question. I have a group program which I just launched, which is exciting. Yeah, so I'm running I'm running one currently, which is it's a lot of fun and I love it, and that's something new in my repertoire. I think it's a great option. I think it also, you want to be really clear with whether you're the one who's offering a group program or you're a participant. You want to be clear with the deliverables, like what is involved in this group program and does this speak to me? So for me personally, I've done a lot of research, and the women who I serve like to have a group where they feel safe. And so for me to create a group program was really important to have it limited to no more than 10 female dietitians. And so the reason I did that is because I'm in the private Facebook group. We're active almost every day. I check in every other day. I'm live every week. We have a group call once a month. And in that group program, in that Facebook group, it's important that the females in that group don't feel lost. It's important that they feel heard. It's important that they share their story. And so if there's too many people in a group, from the research I found and talking to people who I attract, especially if you feel more introverted, you're more likely to be able to share and be vulnerable and create community and share your story with a smaller amount of people in the group. So I think that's important to keep in mind. I've also been in a mastermind myself. It was a smaller group of female dietitians. It was a speaking mastermind, and I found it so beneficial. I was participating in that Facebook group all the time, learning how to improve my marketing material, my speaker one sheet. I created a video, got an opportunity in alignment with my niche for a speaking gig, and I made sure to take advantage of those resources so that I could really get more clear with how to be a better speaker and align that with my business's higher purpose. And so I think when you look into a group program, you want to look what is involved. Does this align with what I need? Is this support going to complement my learning style? And really understanding the specifics of not only the program, but also you want to look at the person running the program. What is their mindset like? What are their beliefs? Do you align with what what their business serves to accomplish? And so for me, a big thing is really helping women and helping women, feel safe and comfortable, because we learn and grow a little bit differently than men do. And so I want to offer a space where women can crush through and break through their limiting beliefs in a way that they're allowed to feel vulnerable. And that's welcome, because this process and this journey, building your business, it's not easy. And it does take self-reflection. And I know you alluded earlier to the whole therapy element. And so one of my coaches says there's a difference between processing emotions, which is more of a therapy thing, and then processing business idea and strategy. And so those two, it's ideal in a perfect world that we keep those separate, but the reality is that quite often they're intertwined. And that's understandable, because in this journey, part of my framework includes having you explore your story, getting really clear step by step with what your niche means, how that relates with your story, being clear with who you're talking to, how does that align with how you're unique and different, and then working through incorporating how you're taking that message into your marketing plan and getting really clear with that. And that journey of discovering part of that framework can be really vulnerable. And so I think it's important to find a space where you feel safe with that. And then one other thing about my group is that you also want to be very clear. So I've talked about some logistics with the group, right? About how many people, how long, what type of group, what's included. So you want to be clear with that when entering a group. And the other thing is you want to understand stage of business. So it's really important. Yeah. And we talked about this earlier. So we've got the beginning stage. Are you making money, or are you, what amount of money are you making, right? Is it consistent? Then we have the intermediate stage. I'm going to assume the beginning is not making money, or you're making less than 2 to 3K from online marketing, or from your business, could be from your private practice, per month. So if you're making more than 2 to 3K per month, I would consider you at a slightly more intermediate level consistently. And if you're making over 10K, I would consider you a little bit more advanced. So understanding where consistently, I'm not talking about like a one-off. I'm saying like you're consistently generating that amount of revenue in your business. So depending on where you are in your business, you want that program, whether it's a group program or coaching, to really fit in line with where you are and where you want to go. So my group program is specifically for female dietitians who are making under $2,000 to $3,000 in their private practice per month. So if you're making over that, you qualify for my one-on-one. If you're making under that, I no longer see dietitians who are not making at least 2-3K per month, because my load is too high, I'm too busy. So I put them in my group program, which is a great foundational framework. So that way the stages of business are really clear. And it took me a while to get to where I am today and to figure that out. And part of that is working with my coaches, constantly asking how can I be more clear and provide more value for the dietitians who I serve. And so walking them through that framework is how my group program works. And I think when you're looking for a group program, it's important that you ask yourself, how does this align with where I am now, where I want to be, and does this person who's hosting this group program, are they the one who's actually going to be representing on the calls, doing the work? Are they the face of that program, or is it somebody else? So you really want to be clear with that. And then finally, let's see if you align with what they believe in.
Yeah, actually, that is really, thank you for giving a lot of insight into choosing a group program, because there are a lot out there, and obviously you now have a group program as well. But if we're talking about, let's talk about investment. So there's always that range of, if you're thinking about hiring a coach, there's got to be some kind of a general range of investment. We talk about making this investment in yourself in the time frame. Like, you're not committing to necessarily work with this coach for the next 5 years. It's for a month or 2 months or 3 months. What's typical? Is there a range of investment that coaches charge in general?
I wouldn't. I can't speak for other coaches. I mean, I know it is definitely all across the board. But what I will say, I have a few thoughts about the investment piece. One of them being that you never want to look at price alone. So price alone is never the best indicator when you're making a decision. And for people who are price shopping, that's why I don't list the price on my website. I want to talk to you as a whole person and have you understand and be really clear with what I do and my methodology and my beliefs, and how that is going to help you transform the same way that my other clients at various levels, from beginner to intermediate to more advanced, have transformed. And so I think looking at the idea as a big picture, and then understanding that it's not a length of time, Megan. Investment is part of what you do consistently. I will never stop investing in my business. Right. I will never stop investing in myself. So I just spoke to my CPA this morning about, I use a profit first method, and we're talking about, setting percentages of how I allocate my monies. And we're talking about, arranging some of those percentages and increasing the amount that I invest, which is already really high in my business per month. And I'm fine with that. It all factors into my overall plan, and I discuss it with my team. But what I think is important to know is that if your serious investment is not a one-time, 1 month thing, the same way I would never ask a client to sell a one-off session, I would not want to work with somebody. I don't offer one-off sessions. You invest with me for an amount of 6 months of time. So I don't work with people for one session. I don't work with people for 1 month. Transformation is not a 1 month process. It's going to take time. And if you're serious and you want to, dedicate your time and energy towards aligning your education with how you feel fulfilled in this world, it's going to take time, and it's going to take money, and it's going to take consistent time and money. So the investment doesn't stop. It only continues as you grow.
Right.
And a lot of that does come from you, of course, having belief and confidence in yourself, which can happen over time. And when you surround yourself with those who also have a strong mindset.
Yeah. And I think investment always precedes growth. It's hard to get the growth before you make the investment. And
I have another opinion about the whole investment piece. A business idea is free. It's free to promote yourself. But in order to make a business operable, in order to make the back end we spoke about and the front end work like a system, and set yourself up to scale and set yourself up to have your business work for you and also feel really fulfilled by it, that takes a lot of steps. And I believe in part of my philosophy is telling my clients to focus on tasks that are going to make you money, revenue generating tasks. Hiring a coach so that you can be clear and consistent and market and sell faster and not leave money on the table is the number one thing you should invest in, not a website, right? Yep. So social, I do not believe in starting a website. You can have a landing page. You can have something simple. You can have one page about me. You don't even need anything. I started with no website, made money, not a problem. You need to focus on how you can make money first. And if you want to make sure you're clear with the coach when you're choosing one. My philosophy is I will set you up to do tasks that make money. And if you're investing in a website and brand colors and brand feel before you even know what problem you're solving in the market, you're off to a negative start. So you want to make sure when it comes to investment, yes, you're going to invest. I believe investment is consistent. And I also believe you need to invest in things that make sense. So fancy, pretty things are not going to make you money. But connecting for free on Instagram, an opportunity and platform for global reach, it's free to use Instagram. But it's not free to understand the direction and personalized approach to make sure that you're in alignment with your belief system and with how you can really solve a problem in the market.
So you were talking about the system that you use. So what if you're out talking to or researching potential coaches? What, of course, Libby, like you're here. Like people could just stop looking. We have Libby here on. But let's say people are looking at various coaches or programs. What are you looking for? What questions should you be asking? How do you get into the meat of, how do you peel the onion to know that if that approach is going to work with you, their framework? I mean, you talked about kind of the front end and the back end. How do you get to that? Making an investment is scary. How do you recognize where it's fear, it's excitement, but it's really, I can see how this is a good fit for my business? How do you kind of tease those two out apart? Do you see what I'm saying here?
So part of it is you, part of it is the client who's looking, and part of it is the coach. So I'll start with the client part. You're always going to be scared, and it's always going to feel awkward, and it might even feel vulnerable. And a lot of the decision-making process is the fear of the person, the dietitian, wanting to invest in a coach. Because remember, when we call it investing in a coach or a group program, but really you're investing in yourself. And that coach has created an opportunity for you to follow a step-by-step methodology. Of course, every coach has a different way of doing it, a different way of speaking, and you want to resonate with that, which is what we'll talk about second. But the first and foremost, you have to acknowledge and get honest at least a little bit with your own fear. So I think instead of getting hung up, although it's important, with what's their exact style and knowing every single detail, I think you need to have some alignment with the coach and with their higher purpose and with what they're doing and with the results that they've gotten. So again, first of all, stage of business. So where are you in your stage of business? We already talked about the 3 stages. And of course, it can get more complex than that. But I gave the example of not making money, making a few thousand consistently per month, and then making a 10K per month would be more intermediate. So number 1, acknowledge your stage of business. And then take a moment to get clear with where do you want to be, and then align who has gotten someone a result similar to that, so that you can learn and take that methodology and apply it to your own. I think also, again, for me, it's really important that I work with a coach who I fundamentally ethically align with. And so one of my coaches is a coach in thought leadership, and she's a female. And I spoke with her on a sales call. She was recommended by another dietitian, and I really align with how she helps me. She thinks very big picture, and she's constantly challenging me to step into my leadership role. And although she wasn't my first coach, she has been great with challenging me in a way that I hadn't been challenging myself before, with building a team, making big decisions, scaling my business, and all of those things. And so talking to her, I felt aligned with how she would challenge me beyond what I thought I was capable of, and her background. And she's very ethical, and I felt really, really good with the work that she's done in the world. And she's very worldly, and she's written a couple books. So I definitely, as my third coach, I really aligned with her. My first coach, I do think if you've never had a coach, a subject matter expert is a great first way to go. So that could be a coach who's also a dietitian who really understands,
that's my next question. You hear people who have very strong feelings. I don't want to hire a dietitian coach, or I want someone who's more of a business background, or
so
talk about that. Because I know we're
Yeah,
running
sure.
out of time, Libby.
So the subject matter expert is a great first coach. So I believe I've been able to really like hone in on my coach now, my thought leadership coach, because I've had a couple subject matter expert coaches before her. So, and that's helped me. A subject matter expert coach, I've had two who are dietitians. Actually, I've had 3 or 4 who are dietitians. I've had speaking coach who's a dietitian, a thought leadership coach who's a dietitian, and then just a general business coach who's my first coach who's a dietitian. They truly understood, they understand what it's like to be a dietitian, understand the market, everything that has to do with where you're coming from and your background. And I think that that's a great way for you to align and get really clear. And so I think that's a good first step. Yes, it's great to step outside and, you know, a business background from folks who are not subject matter experts, but I would argue that having one subject matter expert on your team, and if you don't have a team and you just have one, hiring a coach who's a subject matter expert is going to help you get clear. Now, if you've hit your goals and you have a functioning funnel, meaning you're super clear, okay, I'm going to, you know, this prospect's going to come to me. I'm going to take them here. They're going to have that offer. So you're clear with the journey of where your customer is going from front end, which is marketing and sales, to back end, which is systems and operations. If you're clear with that and, you know, your message is solid and you're feeling good, that would be a time to progress, I believe, outside of a subject matter expert, or as you're, you know, getting near to getting more clear with that. But I have benefited tremendously from working with multiple subject matter experts who really get how I position myself as a dietitian and understand the market of not only dietitians, but how dietitians think and feel, and, you know, a lot of the nuances about the philosophies in our field and what that means. So I think there's huge benefit with working with a subject matter expert. Or, for example, you know, if you're in peds, I just interviewed a peds dietitian who is a subject matter in peds. And I think that's a great way for you to first start out and get really clear. If you're a dietitian who specializes in peds, it could be a great idea to get a little bit of expertise and hone in on that. I know Jennifer McGurk, a friend of mine, she's, you know, does business coaching. She's a subject matter expert in intuitive. And yeah, so I think that that's also a really great way. She offers like clinical supervision. So that can be a great step. It can have to help you with clarity. Again, I'm talking about like first steps, clarifying, being clear with how you're making money and setting yourself up. Working with somebody of that nature can be a really good idea, unless if you're going to argue with me and say, I'm super clear, my message is strong, I know who I'm marketing to, I have tons of leads, I can't handle my leads, I have so many leads. Now, if you come to me like that, I'm going to say, okay, maybe we'll consider, maybe no, maybe we'll bypass the subject matter expert, but more often than not, that's not happening. Or if you are getting leads, they might, you know, not all be from a source like social that you control. It might be like a referral base from doctor's office, and that's a whole different story. It might not be your ideal client. So I'm talking about leads from your ideal client. And so when you're really clear with your messaging and you can work with someone who's related to what you do as a dietitian, it can help sharpen your skills and give you more confidence to develop that mindset and then move on and really incorporate the business skills as you've sharpened your philosophy with what you do and why you do what you do. And that's where I start. You got to start there.
I love that. Oh, Libby, I think we could talk all day. This idea of, you know, your mission and what you're bringing to the world. I think that ultimately, you know, me personally, I think I resonate with that very strongly. Being very mission driven, very purpose driven, as far as, you know, RD2RD, right? Being, you know, democratizing, right? How dietitians share and monetize their expertise in a digital platform. And I think before we go, I want people to know how they can connect with you. One, to learn more about your podcast, some of the, you know, resources that you have available, and then learn more about your group programs and your coaching program.
Absolutely. So you can connect with me on Instagram at Libby Rothschild. My podcast is Dietitian Boss, and my website is libbyrothschild.com. The link in my bio on Instagram at Libby Rothschild is where you can currently apply to my group program. And you can also find more information out about that on my website, Libby Rothschild. And I, love to connect with dietitians and be a resource for you the same way that Megan does with her community. So I would love to hear from you and hear what you thought about today's interview and see what's going on with where you are in your current journey with your business.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show. And really, I think talking about your personal experience being coached, and then also your coaching philosophy, whether you listen to this interview and you really thought about coaching in a different way. I think for me, that's kind of some of those little light bulbs going on as far as in my past experience, maybe what I didn't necessarily appreciate as coaching, and some of those relationships that I had that served.
Sure.
I was a very young 20-something as a clinical manager, but actually had some very, I would say, fairly formal coaching and mentorship relationships that perhaps looking back now, I see them through a different lens. But I think this topic of subject matter expert coaches, looking at what your front end, the back end, really looking at that investment in your business being there really isn't the right time. It's something that you're going to be building in for the long haul. It's not, this is the only thing I need to put in and then this investment is finished. That this really becomes this is the trajectory for your business, and building that into the expense, building it into the fabric of your business is really smart from the beginning, because it's only going to help you grow. So
love it. Yes. Thank you for having me on.
All right. Thank you so much, Libby. And thank you everyone for joining. And we had some great comments about people hiring coaches, and thank you all for sharing that. And I appreciate it. So we'll be back in a couple of weeks, actually talking about online programs and how to create a successful online program with Stephanie Claremont. And so if you want to join us for that, that will be a lot of fun. So
Awesome.
Thanks again. Bye, Libby.
Bye.